A humble welcome to everyone. Thank you for being here today and welcome to the Indigenous Clean Energy Opportunities Workshop hosted in partnership between the BC First Nations Energy and Mining Council and the BC Ministry of Energy, Mines and Low Carbon Innovation. Just a moment, I have to hit OK to the recording. Okay. All right, so obviously, please be advised that this session will be recorded for note-taking purposes to support the development of a report of the proceedings of this day. When complete, the report will be shared with participants and on the ICEO website. There should have been that recording notice that popped up for you on your screen. If you consented to stay, that means you will be here. If not, if you declined, then you would have been booted out. So welcome. And thank you. You are welcome to keep your camera off during the session. I understand that some of us have some bandwidth issues as well. While we wait for others to join us, I would like to ask you to please update your display name if needed to improve our communications with each other. If not, you may get a note from our teammate, Crystal, to remind you about that. We would love to know more about you as well. I encourage you to comment in the chat, say hello to one another, where you're calling in from, the nation you represent, and maybe what you hope to get out of the workshop today. If you're on a PC, the chat icon can be found, can usually be found at the bottom of your screen, which looks a little bit like a speech bubble labeled chat. Feel free to drop questions or comments using the chat throughout the day. We have moderators on our team to answer them right in the chat or collect them for the speakers and presentations during the Q&A periods. So, as many of you know, we had to change the course 2 weeks ago, change course 2 weeks ago and pivot from in-person at the Sheraton Vancouver Airport Hotel to fully online. We understand that this is far from an in-person or face-to-face workshop with networking, informal chats with speakers and catered food. But within the short period of time, we were able to add a few things, like a couple things like giveaways from our partners and online collaboration tools. So our hope is that you'll leave this workshop feeling more connected and empowered and informed. Like anything in life, the more you participate, the more you'll get out of it. So at this time, I would like to call on our trusted elder, Larry Grant from Musqueam, to share some good words and ground us for the work that we'll be doing today. Off to you, Larry.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. Hi, Tinishqualawan, Kunsi, Kwatsnala, Twathlop, Klaya, Shuiti, Tinawea. CM, Tishayet, Theatalatin, Tilfolop, Huinamet. Shuiti, Tesal, Tamakut, Musqueam, the Equinus, Jovenel, Pepalano, Coltimoto, Cus Helocto, to Quinas, Netzomo, Cus Shuiti, Tesal, Tamakut, Musqueam, the Equinus, Jovenel, Pepalano, Setsam, Teni, Teswallop, Heloctala. I tap Sim, Nasiaya. I Tinishqualawan Kunz Kosnala Shwai Nanamut to Musqueam all because the site I Squanquum Squanquums Shwai the Homahas Tomo. I tap Elis I want to say thank you for having me here this morning to do the land acknowledgement as a descendant of the warrior that was here to greet the first visitors to arrive off our shores. The Spanish under Captain Narvaez and the English under Captain George Vancouver. And as our ancestors had done in the past, to do this morning, and raise my hands and welcome to all of you that are logged on here today for the Indigenous Clean Energy Opportunities. And it's really, really my pleasure to be opening this clean energy workshop in the sense that hopefully it is something that is really, really beneficial to the Indigenous communities, but also offering some low carbon energy to the communities that really, really need some economic development to maintain their lifestyle. So I truly say thank you for being here today and participating in the Clean Energy Workshop. ICEO Nasya Kalet Quanti Tala Taswalap Inama Shui Tanawail ICEO. Thank you.
Aichka, Larry, thank you for sharing your knowledge and for taking the time out of your busy day to be here with us today. We share the same hope for this workshop as well. So please stay as long as you wish, and we really look forward to seeing you tomorrow as well.
Yeah.
Aichka. Okay, for introductions, ICEO Antapat Lakalowitz Tanat Tanitsanat Layakson Neat Hello. Quinitum's not Tricia Thomas. Good day, everyone. My English name is Tricia Thomas, and my ancestral name is Lakalowitz Tanat. It is a war chief's name from Layakson, which also means good speaker. I am co-Salish from the Hook speaking territory here on Vancouver Island, and I'm calling in today from Halalt near Chemainus, where I am also a proud member. I'll be co-facilitating the day along with Cole Sayers. Cole, over to you.
Thanks, Tricia, and Quico, Larry. Thank you for that warm welcoming and acknowledgement of the territory. I'm calling in from my homeland, Hoopa territory, and so it's good to see you all virtually. It's unfortunate that we can't see each other in person, but virtually has its advantages too. And part of that is having a bunch of really great speakers lined up, and I just want to acknowledge all the people who put the work in to craft the agenda and the presentation and pulling all the content together. There's a lot of work to put this together. So thank you, and to our advisory members on our electricity table advisory group. I just want to acknowledge them. We have our First Nations members, Judith Sayers, Trent Mores, Harvey McLeod. I think Russ is also on, in addition to our partners in government, Les McLaren, Jeremy Keynes from the BCUC, and I think that's the side. But thank you for attending and for contributing to today. So it's getting warmed up. So for today, I just want to provide a bit of a context for the ICEO. And so some of you might be familiar with the ICEO at some of our previous events, but this is a really nice drawing that was done by a graphic facilitator at one of our ETAG meetings. And when I say ETAG, I'll try to avoid acronyms. What we mean by that is the Electricity Table Advisory Group. And so that they're our advisory committee overseeing this workshop, the Electricity 101s. And so the electricity table is just one of our tables. We also have a legislative table that's in development and the hydrogen table. And so the ICEO has been a co-led initiative between Emily, Ministry of Energy, Mines, Low Carbon Innovation, and FNAMC, the First Nations Energy Mining Council. Our terms of reference has been placed in the chat box for you to access. It includes many topics that the province has agreed to explore, such as infrastructure ownership, Indigenous utilities, and revenue sharing. We're in the early stages of the second year, but some progress has been made through the design of these workshops, for example. However, with the recent announcement of the Clean Energy Future, we must increase engagement with yourselves so that you can ask the questions needing answers, such as how this initiative will align or help inform the work that's being done by BC Hydro Task Force and their engagements, which we'll learn about later today, or how will the non-integrated area communities be supported so that they are not once again left behind and move down the priority list to decarbonize. And I also want to acknowledge too that this the energy sector, not just here in BC, but globally, has been shifting radically the past few years. Recently there was a call for power that was announced. So things have shifted here in BC. So part of what we wanted to do today was to help support those conversations that are going to be needed. And part of that is knowledge sharing around some of the things that maybe we don't have access to, like the question we have about the grid, where the power comes from, where it comes from, what are the capacity of the transmission lines, but also BC is not an island. We're connected to the Western United States. So what's going on in the Pacific Northwest? What does procurement look like in Washington? What else is happening in Canada, in Quebec, and in Ontario? So we'll touch on some of these today. It's meant to be introductory. Please ask questions. This is the place to do it. We want to be learning today about things that you may not know, or if you have knowledge, please share in the chat box. We look forward to receiving your critical questions. Express your concerns and any positive or constructive feedback you may have to offer today. Thank you for your time. We hope that you can spend as much time as you can with us today. And I'll turn it over over to First Nations Energy Mining Council CEO Dave Porter for some opening remarks.
Thank you, Cole. Elders, leaders, invited guests, citizens of our nations. My name is Dave Porter. My Kaska name is Saschair, which translates into bear sinew. At the outset, I'd like to inform the participants we made a decision to move from an in-person meeting to a virtual meeting because of the strike that the employees of the Sheraton Hotel have taken on. We did not want to place our participants in a position of having to cross a picket line. It's important that you know that. As the CEO of the First Nations Energy and Mining Council, I would like to begin by acknowledging that I'm speaking to you today from the traditional territory of the Stolo Nation. FNEMC is a nonprofit organization with a mandate from the First Nations leadership in British Columbia to support and facilitate responsible energy and mining resource development. That means development that respects the environment and the rights and titles of our nations. This month, we heard Premier Eby call for clean power to electrify BC's future. And in these early stages, it is imperative that we recognize the critical juncture this represents for First Nations, the province, and BC Hydro. The oversight of First Nations interests in the implementation of past calls to power means the importance of ensuring First Nations are provided real economic opportunities, and this must not be underestimated. With the enshrining of the UN Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous People into provincial law, we consistently remind governments of the need for free, prior-informed consent. And while this remains an inherent right for our nations, we must also remind government of Article 21.2, which reads, states shall take effective measures and where appropriate, special measures to ensure continuing improvement of Indigenous peoples' economic and social conditions, the appropriateness of facilitating increased clean energy opportunities for our First Nations is now before us today. In addition to the Indigenous Clean Energy Opportunities Initiative, we are working in collaboration with the province and Natural Resources Canada on the regional energy and resource tables. The first of its kind in Canada, where the federal government and provincial government are seeking to come together with First Nations to identify priority areas in the natural resource and energy sectors. Integrating the perspectives of First Nations peoples and advancing economic reconciliation has been identified as a critical component to the Regional Table Initiative. We believe this tripartite table can further support your efforts here today and to strengthen a government-to-government process that calls for all negotiations to be conducted in alignment with the UN Declaration. And in my view, this must include, again, implementation of free, prior informed consent, joint decision-making, joint planning, joint permitting for resource development, establishing guardians programs and Indigenous protected conserved areas, achieving equitable revenue sharing agreements with public governments, negotiating profit sharing agreements with industry, and compensation for First Nations for all lands that have been alienated as a result of development decisions. I remind you that even in clean energy development, First Nations governments must be full and equal participants in the conduct of environmental assessments and impact assessments. 20 years ago, the Sauk First Nation on Vancouver Island was the first community in Canada to install solar panels on all of its buildings. Around that time frame, the Taku River Tlingit First Nation built a run-of-the-river hydro project, which they own 100%, and this project supplies all of the power needs for the community of Atlin in northern British Columbia. TRFN is now poised to supply power to the Yukon energy grid. These two energy projects are a major step forward toward energy security and a clear demonstration of leadership. Our nations are committed to fighting climate change and are willing to continue taking a leadership role. Our collective future depends on our success. So thank you very much for inviting me to share some comments as you begin your deliberations. And I look forward toward the outcome of this event and others to follow. So have a good discussion. And I would like now to conclude my remarks and turn the proceedings back to the chair.
Hitchcock. Thank you so much for your words, Dave, and welcome. Okay, so today our ICEO workshop objectives will focus on building knowledge and understanding of the most important information to advancing First Nations economic opportunities in the electricity sector, and identifying gaps on progress and derive recommendations for next steps in the ICEO process, and for the inclusion in regulatory and legislative discussions. So, how do these objectives sound to you? Would you like to see anything added? We will give you a moment to review and then put any comments in the chat to raise your hand. And then to make sure that we're helping you the best way that we can throughout the day, we can constantly be recording and reviewing your questions and comments, and then coming back to these objectives. We'll cap off the day with a summary of key messages being delivered by yourselves. At this time, I'd also like to take the opportunity. We also have Lise here with us today and tomorrow, who will be creating visual representation of our activities, similar to the ICEO map that Cole was presenting on, which was created by Michelle Buchholz. I know that some of you may be familiar with Lisa's work, but I'm just going to ask her to introduce herself and the concept of graphic recording before we get really busy. Lisa, over to you.
Thank you. I'll be back to come to you.
Oh, okay. She's going to take my spot.
I have to sneak in here and say hello. My name is Lise Gillis. I am Korean Métis, mixed European. My traditional name is Pasco Pisamoyapi Setsak, and it means rising rainbow spirit. So I'm here today as your graphic recorder, and if you've not seen graphic recording before, it's a really incredible way of translating conversations and dialogue into a visual piece, and it helps us visually represent the day, and it's a great tool for reflection on the work that's being done. But I also want to mention that as knowledge holders and sharers, we honor the principles of OCAP, which refers to ownership, control, access, and possession of intellectual information. So you are the owners within the process, and all of the information gathered with you will also be shared back for you to use. I look forward to creating with you today.
Excellent. Thank you, Lise. Thank you so much for being here with us. And I'm really looking forward to seeing your visual representation of this day. Throughout the day, please feel free to take a peek at how she's illustrating our conversations. She's logged in today in her with her name and role, Lise Gillis, graphic recorder. We have her pinned, so you just double click and I think it will expand it so you can take a look at what she's working on. So just to go over the structure of the day, let's go over the agenda together. Today's workshop will cover the BC's context of the evolving future of electricity. We'll learn more about the recent provincial announcements for clean energy or clean electricity production. And we'll gain further understanding of electricity generation, transmission, distribution, utilities, and regulation. We have a lineup of amazing speakers and presenters joining us throughout the day on these topics. And this afternoon, we'll focus on the alignment of the United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples Act into the BC electricity sector. So that's the next slide. All right, so just take a little peek at that. This is what we're going to be working on today.